Welcome to the SEO.co Search Engine Optimization Podcast. Digital marketing essentials and next-level tactics. From off-site and on-site optimization to persuasive selling and everything in between. You'll learn actionable tips on what it takes to outright and outrank your competition.
Welcome back to another episode of the SEO.co podcast. We're continuing the series SEO for Startups, and in this episode, we're moving into Phase 2, collaborate with journalists and editors, or become the journalist. Once you've got your foundation in place, you're ready to start communicating with journalists and publishers. Start by identifying which publishers to target. I covered 7 essential quality metrics for evaluating publishers in previous episodes. One of those, Google PageRank, has since been discontinued. But here are the other 6. Domain authority, unique referring domains, Alexa score, relevance, audience, and quality. You may already have an idea of which media outlets you want to get covered in. If not, Alexa.com has a fantastic list of publishers, listed in order of the amount of traffic they get, and you can break them down by category. If you don't know where to start here. There are many different types of news outlets, and many different ways you can approach your delivery of news content related to your company. These include writing and submitting your own press release, pitching a story, and collaborating with others for a joint project. I'll be exploring each of these in turn. DIY press releases. Your first option is the easiest and the most approachable for entrepreneurs unfamiliar with garnering media exposure. In this process, you'll use a newsworthy event related to your company and distribute it to a host of potential news sources using a service like PRWeb, Cision, or just about any PR firm. Those sources may reject, edit, or publish your piece directly on their sites, giving you potential exposure across the web. Find a newsworthy event. Your first job is to find an event that's truly newsworthy, and this is harder than it might seem. First, it has to be timely. You can't pick a significant event that happened a few years ago. Second, it has to be relevant to a wide audience. Nobody's going to care that it's your accounting assistant's dog's birthday. Third, it can't be inherently self-promotional, though there is a blurry line here. For example, let's say SMB Sam is offering a sale on his specialty coffee beans. This is self-promotional because it isn't out of the ordinary and it's of no interest to anyone other than prospective buyers. However, let's say SMB Sam decides to celebrate St. Patrick's Day by offering green-tinted mint-flavored coffee and a free shamrock pin with every purchase. This is more newsworthy because it's a timely, interesting, spirited local event, not just a sale or promotion. Draft an objective, informative release. Once you have your topic, you'll need to draft the actual release. If you're used to content marketing or writing in a personal brand voice, you need to know that press releases demand a more conservative, matter-of-fact tone. Keep your sentences concise and to the point, and try to avoid colloquialisms and conversational language when you can. Avoid the use of first person or second person, and remain as objective and neutral as possible in your descriptions. Your goal here is not to promote your company, it's only to provide information. Use a relevant link to your website. Depending on how you distribute, you may have an opportunity to include a link in some formal way, such as including it in a form field. Otherwise, you'll need to include it in context of your press release, such as when you mention your brand name for the first time. Link building for SEO is a complex and time-consuming strategy with many considerations, but there are a few basic rules to follow for press releases. Make sure your link makes sense in context. Avoid using keyword-stuffed anchor text, include only one link, and avoid making it promotional with language like "check out our site." Submit to a distribution network. Once your draft is complete and edited, you can submit it to a distribution network which will distribute your work automatically among hundreds to thousands of different publishers. Using a tool like PRWeb, which I recommend, you can filter out various publishers to better target your audience. You'll also receive a full distribution report at the end of your action, showing you which publishers have decided to pick up your work. If this process seems easy, it's because it is. Just don't count on every publisher you encounter to run with your piece. Now let's move into collaborations and exclusives. Collaborations and exclusives are different types of news stories, and they don't rely on the manual submission of articles to be published. Oftentimes, this is the joint work of a journalist and a personal brand/entrepreneur/individual. So you'll need either a pre-existing relationship with a journalist or a strong enough reputation to earn these pieces on your own. You'll get varying degrees of exposure and reputation boosts depending on the type of collaboration you choose. These are just a few. First, interviews. Interviews are great because they give your personal brand tons of exposure, and you get to control the content that goes into each piece with how you respond to the journalist's questions. Unfortunately, they're also notoriously hard to earn for startups because you probably haven't had time to develop much of a reputation. When a journalist looks to interview a leading authority in a given industry, they tend to look from the top down, meaning an entrepreneur more popular than you will probably beat you to the punch. Still, be on the lookout for interview opportunities, especially when it's a mass interview with multiple authorities on one topic. One fantastic way to do so is to sign up for Haro or Help a Reporter Out, which will put you on an email list that will send you opportunities that may be of interest to you. Basically, reporters who need sources for their stories can solicit them via Haro, and if you find a story for which you think you could be a good source, you can contact the journalist and offer your assistance. It's free, and it's a great way to connect with journalists who write about your industry. Secondly, profiles. Profiles tend to be short but close examinations of businesses, organizations, people, or establishments in the city. Reviews often fall into this category, though reviews often deviate from the standard of news. Instead, imagine that our friend SMB Sam has been developing Red Diamond coffee for about a year, but has suddenly seen a huge surge in popularity among certain segments of the population. A journalist might take this opportunity to examine the motivations behind this economic boom. Again, this is a hard collaboration to come by because it requires that you already have something powerful to offer. Next, contextual participation. Contextual participation is a clunky term for a broad category of different news pieces that all share one thing in common. They rely on contributions from a number of different sources. For example, something as simple as a traffic report could have quotes from everyday citizens explaining what traffic issues they faced, or something more complex like an industry report that could have a number of different experts weighing in with their opinions. Obviously, you want to shoot for the latter. One good way to do that is to conduct original research and publish a research report that analyzes the results to draw some interesting conclusions. This is the approach that we at SEO.co took with our What Works in Online Marketing report. After publishing the report, we received a lot of great coverage of the results, with journalists referencing specific data from the report, all while mentioning SEO.co and linking back to our website. You can do this too. Lastly, real-world events. You can also earn exposure in a collaborative piece simply by participating in real-world events. For example, let's say your city's hosting an event on entrepreneurship. You could sign up to be a speaker and give a presentation about your company. You'll get tons of networking opportunities and brand exposure at the actual event. And you can also count on at least one journalist to be present, documenting the event as it unfolds. This is more a secondary benefit of event attendance than it is a standalone strategy, but it is one to keep at the forefront of your mind. Thanks again for listening to the SEO.co podcast and the series SEO for Startups. Join us next time as we move into the topic of pitching. Thanks again.
Thank you for joining us on the SEO.co podcast. We appreciate your time. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show and visit SEO.co for more resources based on today's topic, as well as access to more podcast episodes to help you improve your site's long-term SEO success.